They say betrayal creeps in slowly, like a shadow at dusk, almost invisible until it consumes you completely. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman to cross a line I could never erase. But temptation came not from a stranger, not from a fantasy, but from the man who lived just next door. He was kind, strong, and carried the weight of a world that had judged him long before I ever did. And while my husband was away, I discovered just how dangerous loneliness can be. This is the story of how I destroyed the life I thought was unshakable. My life always appeared perfect from the outside. A cozy suburban house with a white picket fence, a husband who worked long hours to provide for us, and a neighborhood that seemed safe and welcoming. But perfection is a thin layer of paint, easy to crack if you press too hard. My husband's career demanded travel. He was often gone for weeks at a time, and though he provided everything material, his absence hollowed me out. The silence in our home grew louder with each trip, echoing down the hallways at night. I filled my days with chores, errands, and small talk with neighbors, yet deep inside, loneliness gnawed at me like an unrelenting hunger. It was during one of his business trips that I first noticed Marcus, the man who lived next door. He had moved in just months earlier, and though polite, he kept to himself. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that held both kindness and exhaustion, Marcus stood out in our predominantly white neighborhood. I had heard whispers, snide comments from other women about how someone like him didn't belong here. But I had also seen the way he offered to carry groceries for the elderly, how he fixed his own roof instead of calling for help, and how he waved with a sincerity that most of my neighbors lacked. My first real interaction with him was small, insignificant even. A storm had rolled through one evening, and my trash cans had toppled into the street. Before I even stepped outside, I saw Marcus braving the rain, dragging them back into place. He nodded toward my window before disappearing into his own house. It was a simple act, but it planted something inside me. Days turned into weeks, and my husband left again for another trip. That's when the cracks in my life began to widen. My neighbor's judgment of Marcus became more obvious: cold shoulders, fake smiles, and whispered warnings. But I couldn't see him through their prejudice. I only saw the man who carried himself with quiet dignity despite living under constant suspicion. I began noticing him more. When he jogged in the mornings, when he mowed his lawn, when he leaned against his porch railing at dusk, staring into the horizon. There was something magnetic about him, something raw and unfiltered compared to the carefully polished image my husband and I tried to maintain. And then came the day when I invited him over. It was innocent at first, or so I told myself. I had baked too much banana bread and thought it polite to share. He accepted with a hesitant smile, his voice low and gentle as he thanked me. That brief exchange lingered with me all night. By the following week, I found myself seeking excuses to run into him. A missing package, a question about lawn care, casual waves that turned into longer glances. Each interaction chipped away at my resolve. My life felt dull, predictable, but Marcus represented something forbidden, something thrilling. The tension between us grew unspoken yet undeniable. It was in the way our eyes lingered a little too long, the way my heart raced when I caught his shadow in the yard. I knew what I was feeling was dangerous, but loneliness has a way of justifying sins before they are even committed. My husband called one evening, his voice flat with exhaustion, assuring me he'd be away for another week. As he spoke, my eyes drifted toward the window, where Marcus was unloading bags from his truck. I realized, in that moment, how rarely my husband and I spoke beyond logistics. There was no warmth, no intimacy, just the mechanics of marriage. The next day, Marcus offered to help me fix a loose fence board. What should have been a quick repair turned into hours of shared laughter, sweat, and stories. He spoke about his struggles, how moving into this neighborhood hadn't been easy, how people judged him not by his character but by his skin. I listened, feeling a deep shame that I hadn't done more to defend him when others whispered. His vulnerability broke through the walls I had built around my heart. From then on, my loneliness found a dangerous cure. I began craving his presence, even if it was just a passing hello or the comfort of knowing he was near. The neighborhood's disapproval only heightened the allure, making each interaction feel like a secret rebellion against the world's cruelty. But rebellion has consequences. The betrayal came one evening when the air was thick with summer heat. I had invited Marcus inside after he helped me carry in heavy groceries. The hum of the ceiling fan did little to cool the tension that filled the room. I told myself it was just neighborly kindness, but deep down, I knew the truth. As minutes turned into hours, the silence between us grew louder than words. Every stolen glance, every brush of his hand against mine pushed me closer to the edge. And then, without hesitation, I crossed the line. In that moment, guilt vanished beneath a wave of passion and loneliness fulfilled. But as soon as it was over, the reality of what I had done came crashing down. I had betrayed not just my husband, but myself, my vows, and the life we had built. The days that followed were a blur of shame and secrecy. I avoided Marcus, avoided mirrors, avoided the growing ache in my chest. My husband eventually returned, his suitcase thumping against the hardwood floor, his smile tired but genuine. I hugged him, and for the first time, I felt like a stranger in my own skin. The weight of my betrayal never lifted. It haunted me in the quiet hours of the night, whispering that I had destroyed something sacred. My husband never knew, but I did. And Marcus, he carried his own burden, one that I had selfishly added to. What began as a longing for connection had become a wound that would never fully heal. I had sought comfort in the arms of a man already burdened by the prejudice of others, and in doing so, I betrayed not just my marriage, but the values I thought I stood for. Betrayal isn't just about broken vows. It's about the ripple effect, the unseen damage that spreads through lives, leaving scars long after the moment has passed. I learned too late that desire, when left unchecked, can destroy more than loneliness ever could. So I ask you, would you risk everything for a fleeting escape? Or is betrayal the one mistake that leaves no room for redemption?